Meal planning doesn't have to be fussy or tedious. In fact, it's possible to plan a week of meals in under 10 minutes. I know because I do it every single week for my family of 3. I used to be overwhelmed by the idea of meal planning. It felt too long, it was too complex, and it just wasn't an enjoyable task. But avoiding it always led to a higher grocery bill, a stressful cooking experience, mediocre last-minute meals, and a lot of food waste at the end of the week. Thankfully, I have found a routine for meal planning that is simple, reliable, and quick. I don't know about you, but if I'm going to be doing something every single week, I need to be able to get the job done quickly with little to no resistance. So with that being said, here is how I plan our meals every single week. I've learned not to overcomplicate things when it comes to how I manage our household and plan things for my family, because it ends up feeling more like a chore that I don't always want to do, and then I procrastinate. So in order to stay consistent with meal planning for my family, I stick to a schedule. I plan our meals and I create our grocery list every single week on the same day, which is Fridays. That leaves enough room over the weekend on Saturday to add or remove any items that I change my mind about, and then when we pick up our groceries on Sunday, they are fresh for the upcoming week. Scheduling meal planning into your week might help if you struggle with consistency, and honestly, there's no shame in that because that was me before I figured out a solution that worked. I don't think there's one right way on how to keep track of meal plans or recipes. Personally, we use a fridge pad, so it's just stuck on the fridge. I can rip it off if I need to write something on it, and it has every day of the week a slot for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, as well as notes and snack ideas. And then on the right side of the pad, it has a section for groceries, which I think is very handy because those two go hand in hand. And then for recipes, I typically just bookmark recipes that I find online in my browser, obviously, and then I also use cookbooks. So I will just flip the page down if there's something that I like and want to go back to later. I definitely don't recommend trying to remember your meal plan or favorite recipes in your head, because that has personally never worked out well for me. But you can use the Notes app on your phone, you could use a pen and paper, you could use an app like Notion, or any other type of tracking system like on a calendar maybe that works for you. Let's talk about breakfast. This is definitely a meal that we don't actually plan, and so it cuts out a lot of the planning time at the end of the week. We really just focus on staples because we're okay eating the same thing on a, repetitive basis. So that could be avocado toast, cereal or granola with some milk and fruit, toast with eggs, scrambled eggs, fresh fruit, and maybe some yogurt. It's just recurring staple ingredients that we keep in our fridge and our pantry and are always buying on a weekly basis. Sometimes on the weekend we might go a little crazy and make something more extravagant like French toast or some recipe that we've found that we are really interested in, but in those cases we will typically grocery shop for them on that same day, so it's not really a part of the whole meal planning process. When it comes to lunch, we always eat our leftovers first. This is something that we definitely pride ourselves on because we do not like wasting food in our house, and often we will have leftovers from dinner from the night before or even the night before that are still perfectly fine to eat. But if we don't have any leftovers in the fridge, then we turn to staple meals like grilled cheese. All it requires is bread, cheese, and butter, obviously, so we have those all the time in our kitchen anyway. Or I will make like a canned salmon on crackers type of meal, and we often make snack plates, which are basically just fresh fruit or veggies in the fridge, hummus, crackers, some mixed nuts, and really whatever we can find that is nutritious but still fills us up. Rarely are we stumped for ideas on what to make for lunch because we really try to use what we have and we keep it really simple simple. There's not much planning that goes into lunch, just like breakfast, because we are always falling back on these staple meals and ingredients that we seem to always have in the kitchen anyway. Let's talk about the dinner formula. This is something that helps me make quick decisions when I am meal planning, and it also just makes the whole process a little bit easier. So typically all of our dinners follow this formula, and that is having a protein, a starch, and a veggie. Our proteins are always typically kept in frozen portions in the freezer because we do buy these in bulk to save money, and then I will portion them up to use over the coming weeks. We always have starches on hand, whether that's potatoes, brown rice, white rice, or even just pasta. And so those are typically always in the cupboard and easy to grab if we need it for a recipe. And then veggies are really the only thing that require further thought and planning. We always try to get these as fresh as we possibly can, and buying them on a weekly basis allows us to do just that. So step number 1 of the meal planning process for me is assessing what is left in the kitchen. We do shop for our groceries on a weekly basis, and we only buy what we need for that given week, but sometimes there will be like a veggie or two left in the fridge that I can use for the upcoming meals in that next week. So I check the fridge and the pantry for updated amounts on proteins, veggies, fruits, as well as starches. Like I mentioned, we really try our best to use what we have before we buy anything new. It's a non-negotiable, and it also helps to lower our grocery bill on a weekly basis, and it also takes some of the guesswork out of the meal planning process because it narrows down what type of meals we can make. So for example, if I have chicken thighs in the freezer, I'm not going to plan a meal that requires ground beef. Step number 2 is to schedule in the fam favorites. We've got an ongoing list of about a dozen meals that we always love to eat, and they're very simple to make. So I don't require a recipe to actually make these, and it just makes meal planning so much quicker. So the meals that we are always repeating are salmon, rice, and a veggie. So that's usually broccoli or bok choy. We do a pasta and garlic bread, tuna melts, which is basically just a bun, tuna, mayo, some celery or bell pepper mixed in, and then cheese on the top, sheet pan chicken, potatoes and carrots, and the list goes on. These are eaten at least once every 2 weeks, and they prevent the need for major brainstorming when it comes to choosing which meals to make. It saves me a lot of time, and they're also really easy to fall back on and fill up my meal plan with if I don't have energy to cook something new in a given week. Step 3 is to leave room for new ideas. This is where we can experiment with different flavors and new recipes. I try to do this at least once a week because it allows us to just get creative with the cooking process. So one recent flavor that we incorporated into our dishes is miso. It just came in this little tub, and it's kind of like a paste, and we actually found a chicken recipe that we really love and has now become a part of that fam favorites list that I just mentioned in the previous step. I will often take inspiration from recipes that I find in our cookbooks or something that we've seen on social media, maybe something that JR has seen, or even recipes that my mom has previously made that we really enjoyed. This isn't always a mandatory part of the meal planning process, but it definitely opens the door for more creativity and excitement when it comes to cooking our meals. When I need something easy to fill in the gaps of the meal plan, I fall back on these easy and simple solutions. It could be pre-packaged meal kits from Superstore or Costco, a frozen pizza, or frozen gyozas, which are always really easy and quick to whip up, and they are always enjoyable. Not every week is perfect, and life does happen, so having these options just gives me a little bit of flexibility, and it also just reduces the stress that is sometimes associated with meal planning. Having the system in place has saved me so much time and mental energy when it comes to planning meals every single week, and I think even if you're cooking for 1 or 10 people, you could definitely benefit from incorporating some type of structure into your meal planning as well. I would love to know if you are an avid meal planner or if you like to cook on the fly instead. Let me know in the comments down below. I know I mentioned earlier that I really like to take the path of least resistance consistent if I'm going to be doing something on a reoccurring basis, and I use this same analogy when it comes to how my kitchen functions. Cooking and cleaning up are efficient and pleasant because of the way that I place certain items in my kitchen. So if you feel like your kitchen could use a little bit of TLC and reorganizing or rearranging, I've got a video that I recently did on my own kitchen organization and where everything is placed, and you can watch that right here if you want a little bit of inspo. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.